Welcome back, everyone. Today we're uncovering one of the biggest secrets in the fast food world. How KFC keeps its original chicken recipe hidden. But don't be fooled by the crispy golden brown chicken. This story is about corporate secrecy, consumer manipulation, and the never-ending chase for profit. I know those tasty pieces from the 3-piece chicken big box meal have an almost magical way of making our taste buds dance with joy. They're like sneaky little ninjas, drawing us into a sea of greasy, calorie-packed goodness. But let's cut through the grease and ask the real question. What makes them so irresistible? Thanks to the online community, I actually found a group of food adventurers, modern-day treasure hunters, on a mission to uncover KFC's original recipe. These brave folks are like Indiana Jones, but with more oil-stained fingers and a fewer ancient artifacts. In a moment of over-the-top enthusiasm, I even bribed some of my writers with pizza to flood KFC's social media. We reached out multiple times to their PR team for any sort of comment, and unsurprisingly, KFC's defenses were rock solid, and we didn't hear anything back from them. But of course, we are free people with a lot of tools, and we've done a lot of research and put it together for you today. So sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. Over the years, many have tried to crack the code, with some even claiming success. And to those bold claims, I can only raise an eyebrow in disbelief. Really? Do you really think you managed to replicate a recipe that has stumped food scientists and top chefs for decades? I'm not convinced. Let's go back to where this all really began. It started with Colonel Harland Sanders in the late 1930s. His small gas station in Corbin, Kentucky, unexpectedly became famous for its fried chicken. In a smart business move, the Colonel Sanders, he turned his gas pumps into a busy restaurant and motel. I guess you could say he was fueled by his passion for chicken and money. It was here, in this unlikely place, that Colonel Sanders worked tirelessly in secret to perfect his famous recipe. The process was obviously not easy. Pan frying took way too long, and deep frying left the chicken dry and unevenly cooked. Raise your hand if you never knew, just like me, that KFC isn't just deep fried chicken. But going back to what my writers wrote, in 1939, he found salvation in a pressure cooker or pressure fryer. This kitchen gadget allowed Sanders to make perfectly juicy chicken in under 10 minutes. It was a pressure-packed solution to his cooking problem. By July 1940, after many tries and taste tests, the Colonel finally created his original recipe. But here's where the story gets interesting and strange. This recipe was never made public. When asked, Sanders would say it was made of ingredients that stand on everybody's shelf. A clever way to keep everyone guessing, and almost a way to make them feel that these are ingredients you already know, but they're magically mixed together to make this incredible chicken that you love. Clearly, the Colonel had no plans to share this golden chicken, and it's really fascinating to me that this was 1940. I mean, it sounds like something someone would say today, but he obviously had an entrepreneur in him, and it didn't come out until later on in life. Then came World War II. The beautiful dark monster that comes in to ruin all my stories and somehow make businesses better and bigger and more famous. So World War II brought gas rationing and economic trouble. Sanders had to choose what parts of his business to close. Eventually, he obviously had to close his beloved motel and cafe because they're struggling. The construction of Interstate 75, which is a highway in the 1950s, bypassed his establishment completely. It was almost like the end for Sanders and his chicken empire before it even became an empire. But Colonel Sanders was not going to give up. He's always a fighter, and he always refused to give up. He sold his remaining assets and started a cross-country journey, believing so much in this chicken recipe of his. And I think part of it had to do with having so many people early on just have a crazy reaction to it. I mean, the truth is, no matter how small a business is, you can tell when people are going crazy for something you're selling. And he really had this belief. I had nothing to lose. I've already lost everything I thought I wanted. So he went on this cross-country journey, across the United States, selling franchises and forming partnerships. Listen to this. By 1963, his recipe had spread to over 600 outlets across the United States and Canada. Talk about turning setbacks into success. Man, if Colonel Sanders was around, he would have written a book, gotten a deal, been on Forbes, and we would have all been eating that chicken and listening to his podcast because he was an entrepreneur. He turned his problems into tasty chicken dollars. He turned problems into a tasty chicken empire. Without exaggeration, it was an empire. You might think that with such rapid growth, the secret recipe would leak or the quality would decrease. Sanders was very clever. He set up a system where pre-mixed spices were sent to restaurants so not a single franchise could replicate the blend. It was a smart business move, keeping the mystery of his product while expanding very quickly. Eventually, the business grew way too big for Sanders to manage alone. In 1964, he sold the company for $2 million, a huge amount back then, of course. Can we do the math on how much $2 million would be today? Give me a second. I'll be right back. Okay, so $2 million back in 64 would be worth approximately about $18 million today, which is honestly not that big, but I'm assuming it was big for that industry. Going back to the story, he made sure to stay on as KFC's quality controller. After all, who wouldn't want to keep tasting the world's best chicken? Even after selling his business, Sanders stayed fearlessly protective of his recipe. He was known for his harsh critiques of KFC's food. He actually once called the franchise's chicken the worst fried chicken he's ever seen, and compared their gravy to pure wallpaper paste. Sorry to break it to you, Colonel, but it hasn't gotten better over the years, I can tell you that. Such blunt honesty might even make Gordon Ramsay blush. As KFC became a global fast food giant, keeping the secret recipe safe got more and more complicated. The company hired Griffith Laboratories and McCormick and Company to mix the secret blend. Two really big companies in the spice world, in the food industry is also. In a move like something out of a spy movie, each company was given only half of the recipe, mixing their parts only after the step was done. It's like a culinary version of a nuclear launch sequence. 2 keys needed to unleash finger-licking goodness. The lengths KFC goes to this day to protect its secret are amazing and really fascinating, very sophisticated for a business in their industry. Even the head chef doesn't know the full recipe, and so the security around it includes video cameras, motion detectors, and a 770-pound safe encased in concrete and steel. Moving the recipe from its vault is so stressful that a former president once joked, "I don't want to be the only president who's lost the recipe." Imagine the stress that comes with such a responsibility to feed America and keep obesity alive. I'm kidding, I love KFC. Over the years, many have tried to uncover the recipe. Some, like Winston Shelton, claim to have identified key ingredients, like Telly cherry black pepper, and others like author William Poundstone had labs analyze the mix. But KFC always denied their findings. It seems that even science can't crack Colonel's secret, which is really, really fascinating to me, how not a single laboratory could really take the recipe and know everything in it and its proportions and replicate it. Perhaps the closest anyone has come is Joe Ledington, the Colonel's own nephew. He found a handwritten recipe in an old family scrapbook, which included 11 herbs and spices like celery, salt, black pepper, and white pepper. The Chicago Tribune tested this recipe and found it almost identical from KFC's. So I guess we have a really close one. One has to wonder though if Ledington had since received any stern calls from KFC's lawyers. From a legal perspective, there's not much that you can protect there because it's technically, you can't copyright a combination of recipes unless it's patented, and even the patent fair use would play in part there. So I don't necessarily think that you could do it, but I could be wrong. If you're a lawyer or a paralegal and you're watching this video or listening to the podcast version, correct me. I'd love to hear more. But then there is the internet. Forum members claim to have figured out the recipe, calling it TC34D or TC34D. But I bet KFC's executives aren't losing sleep over these online detectives. After all, these forums are the food's worst version of conspiracy theories, big on enthusiasm and short on proof. Hate when people use the word conspiracy theory, but that's a whole topic for another video. However, the most interesting challenge to KFC's secret comes from the 99X seasoning made by Marion K. Spices. In the early 1980s, Colonel Sanders himself asked Bill Summers to recreate his secret blend, thinking the corporate version had changed. After Sanders died, KFC quickly sued Marion K., but the seasoning is still available and highly rated. It shows how much people love Colonel's original vision, even as KFC continues to serve billions of chicken pieces each and every year. So what should we make of this secretive saga? Is the recipe truly safe, locked away in some sort of concrete vault? Or has someone finally cracked the code, making the Colonel's blend in their kitchen on TikTok right now as we speak? The truth, like the exact same mix of those 11 herbs and spices, remains hidden. What we do know, however, for sure, is that KFC had brilliantly turned the mystery of its recipe into a global empire. They've made simple fried chicken recipe into a cultural icon, a topic of endless curiosity and debate. And it's an incredibly genius marketing strategy, I have to say, keeping customers intrigued and coming back for more, even as health experts warn against fried fast food. In the end, maybe the real secret ingredient in KFC's success isn't a particular spice, but the power of storytelling in today's market. And to be honest, the fact that Colonel and his story are so long ago gives KFC such nostalgia that we can't even relate to. It's almost like the nostalgia of eating chicken from the 1930s and 40s that we haven't even lived through, but it gives it so much dimension in comparison to new restaurants, newcomers that would just be created 5 years ago. They've created a story so engaging that it goes beyond the actual product, becoming part of our culture undeniably. As we wrap up this deep dive into secret recipes and fast food empires, I can't help but admire the creativity and, yes, audacity of it all. KFC had kept us talking, guessing, and most importantly, eating, giving them money for almost a century. It's a testament to the power of marketing, the allure of the unknown, and our love for crispy, greasy comfort food. So next time you find yourself craving those red and white buckets, remember, you're not just buying chicken, you're buying into a legend, a mystery, a piece of American history. Whether that's worth the calories and the cost, well, that's a secret only you can decide. Thanks so much for sticking around and being here. I'm really appreciative of all the support on the last episode and this episode. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening or watching this, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.